Welcome to Knockhill for round 2 of the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. The opening rounds have already taken place at Oulton Park, and here's a brief resume of the action that occurred there. So here we are at Oulton Park for the opening rounds, and the cars are ready to go out for their first qualifying session. None of the champions from last year are here to defend their title, but Rick Styrene returns to the season, this time driving a Porsche 924. It's going to be exciting, and here's a summary of the weekend's events.
With no return for the defending champions, Ed Hayes and Pip Hammond respectively, that means it's open season in the 2018 Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. Taking that opportunity with both hands was Adam Southgate at Oulton Park as he clinched 2 very convincing victories and fastest laps. It was a dominant performance at Oulton Park for the Avis Consulting car.
The car was handling beautifully, the balance was fantastic, so thanks to the team, Avis Consulting, for getting the car set up. And yeah, quite an easy march. Had a bit of a play at the end to get a nice fastest lap. Just kind of enjoying myself really, it was good fun.
Jason Flegg took second position in race 1 ahead of Alex Stocker, and it could well have been this man on the podium with them, James Coleman. Although the start at the first race was definitely not his way. Into second until a nudge from behind sent him spinning. No damage for now, and then a big shunt. Major damage for Coleman.
Went in there in second, ended up not continuing, so yeah, too many cars into a small corner I think, so yeah, a bit unfortunate, but we got it back out in the end. So.
In race 2, Coleman saved his weekend with a 3rd place, but Rick Styrene returned to the championship in the 924s, clinching both wins, including his 60th in the championship.
Rick, that was your 60th win in the Porsche Championship. Does that mean you're now finally going to retire?
Yeah, I think so. I feel 60 myself. But it's joking apart, I really enjoyed that race. I thought David Jones drove very well. The boxers were very exciting, going to make good telly for you guys. And these cars, the 924s are fantastic. Not as quick as the Boxsters, but on a budget, they're great fun.
Well, that's a quick summary of the action here from Oulton Park. It's back to Knockhill, where Jake Sanson will take you through the grid for the first race.
And it's going to be the reverse Knockhill Circuit, even more exciting. Adam Southgate and James Coleman on the front row from Gary Lawrence and Nick Hull. Andrew Porter and Nick Bartz on the third row from Kevin Molyneux and Christian Young, with Kevin Ludford rounding out the Boxsters. Johnson and Waters are on the front row of the 924s, with Carl Rossin and Darren Constant. Not a complete grid in the Porsche Championship here at Knockhill. It is a long way to come, but this reverse circuit configuration is going to be very interesting indeed. Nick Hull, Kevin Molyneux, they have cameras, as too does Adam Southgate at the front. Lights out, let's go racing at Knockhill. Good start by Coleman, he's drawn alongside Southgate early doors. Nick Hull into 3rd position ahead of Gary Lawrence. Really good start here at Knockhill, and already asserting himself at the front. Southgate nips through on the inside of Coleman and takes the lead. Hull in 3rd place. 4th is now Lawrence, he's there on the inside. Bartz is hung out to dry a little bit. Porter's going to try and come through. Bartz gets there though. Molyneux's going to sweep past Andrew Porter. Not a lot of room to negotiate, but he's got through. Nicely done there from Kevin Molyneux. So Andrew Porter chasing him down. We're on board with Coleman. 2nd position, chasing down the race leader Adam Southgate as they come out of Clark's and into the John R. Weir chicane. You usually do that the other way round, of course, but this anti-clockwise configuration of the circuit, just as exciting, if not more so than the regular clockwise direction. It's great that we're doing this in 2018, and the British Racing Sports Car Club embracing it with all arms, as the TCR UK Championship is here with us this weekend, of course, as well. We're the support act, but it's great to see the racing run in reverse here at Knockhill. Always wanted to commentate on a race at the Knockhill Circuit. This is my first time of doing so. Bit of a wayward battle between Johnson and Waters for supremacy in the 924s. They could be the two drivers battling for the championship this year as well, although this is Waters' first weekend in the championship. His car was being driven by Rick Styrene last time out, winning his 60th championship race in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship, albeit in the 924s. And I know he said, well, I think I'm going to retire this time, but I've heard him say that billions of times, and it's never been true. Johnson leading the 924s. We're on board with Philip Waters. Down the straight they come. Into the John R. Weir chicane once again. James Coleman, look, 2 wheels leave the deck each time he goes over the curbs as he chases down Adam Southgate. Nick Hull sensibly and smartly through there in 3rd position at the moment. 4th place, that is Gary Lawrence still, with Nick Bartz and Andrew Porter very close in behind. They come off the final turn. You've got to carry the speed all the way out of Scotsman's corner because you are flat through the Sayat curves. Coleman's going to make a bid for Southgate. Southgate sends him to the right-hand side. That's the best way to defend. And there's not a lot Coleman can do. He can't go right round the outside. There's Nick Hull in 3rd. 4th position, that is Gary Lawrence in front of Bartz and Molyneux. Then it's Porter and Christian Young. We're on board with Philip Waters. He now chases after Gavin Johnson. He again sends Waters to the far side of the circuit. Waters has got good momentum though. He might be able to squeeze him through and take the lead. But we're watching this battle between Lawrence and Bartz. And then we've got this man, Dolly Molly himself, Kevin Molyneux. Almost as good a Dolly Parton tribute act as he is a racing driver. And I'm sure he's going to giggle to the left side of his face when he hears that one. But great to see him there battling away. He really seems to have stepped up the developmental route through Kevin Molyneux this season. He's looking a lot stronger even than he did last year. He's right on the back of Bartz, trying to make his way through. Porter and Young are getting very hungry behind him. So as they come up the Sayat curves once again onto the main straight, this is a good run thus far, and we've got a good clean battle. There's Nick Hull in 3rd position, then it's Lawrence, Bartz, Molyneux, Porter and Christian Young. 5 drivers then, all battling away over that 4th position, and if anything happens to the 3 men in front, they will pick up the pieces. There goes Porter, dives down on the inside of Molyneux. Good move from Andrew Porter. He is up into P6 now. And it's all going to be about what Kevin Molyneux can do to recover. Young has got some smoke coming off the car. Molyneux's going straight back on it, on the inside of Andrew Porter, and takes that 6th place back. Really good work there from Dolly Molly. Up into P6 he goes as they go through Clark's. Plenty of curb on the way through. A little bit on the exit just to straighten the car up. Back on the power. And Andrew Porter not close enough to throw it up the inside of the John R. Weir chicane. There's not many people brave enough to throw it up the inside of the John R. Weir chicane, to be fair. It's a really tricky part of the course. He's having a look into Scotsman's. It's not going to happen there. And now as they come back on the power, that's Christian Young in 8th position, but still with a good chance to move forward. He's got the pace this weekend to be in the top 6, and that's only 2 cars in front of him, so Christian Young will keep pushing as they come up over the straight once again, over the crest. And that's where the checkered flag will fly at the end of this race, which is still a good 15 minutes away or so. Good battling this as the number 5, Kevin Molyneux, continues to hold on. We're on board with James Coleman. Oh, that's the first of the traffic, holding up Adam Southgate a little bit, and this is a good chance for Coleman. Can he dive down to the inside? No, Southgate blocks the defenders. We join Darren Constant to watch the action as they go on board into the chicane. That was the best chance yet for James Coleman to get through into the lead. And he's definitely as quick as Adam Southgate. This is not the same display that we saw from Southgate at Oulton Park. This time he's having to be defensive. The advantage he's got is that he's got a wide Porsche, as everybody has. They are plenty full of speed, but there's not a lot of space to manoeuvre. So James Coleman's got to be very particular about how he makes this overtaking move and then hope that it sticks. Once again, Southgate defending beautifully into the real radio hairpin. As they come off the turn, back on the power up towards Hislops, Coleman is going to be working very hard indeed to get past Adam Southgate. Southgate on the right, Coleman on the left, trying to hope that Coleman's got the faster line, but Southgate is just defending, parking that car on the inside line. Don't even try and pass James, I've got this race sorted. And he's got 2 wins out of 2 thus far this season out of Oulton Park. If he keeps this kind of pace up, he could get the hat-trick here at Knockhill. Second round of the championship. Amazing to watch the cars just fly through the John R. Weir chicane. 2 wheels on the deck, 2 on the floor. And it's amazing the kind of power these guys are carrying into the corners. Southgate up the hill at the Sayat curves, charging forward. Good run off the final turn. And then back under the Beatson's Bridge once again onto the main straight. James Coleman still trying to hassle Adam Southgate into a mistake. Southgate is not giving him any chances yet. Coleman gets alongside, pretty much under braking, and now he's trying to cut back for the undercut, but Southgate moves smartly across in time to stop Coleman coming through, and it's pretty much stalemate as a result of that, because Southgate knows exactly where to put the car so that Coleman can't come through. We might have seen a few more battles of this nature at Oulton Park if Coleman hadn't been tapped off at the first corner at Oulton Park. He was very unfortunate, because in the initial spin at Oulton Park he wasn't hit by anybody, and then as he came back around he got clouted big style, lots of damage, out of the race on the spot. And how he fought it back to the podium last time out at Oulton Park really was stupendous, is the only word really I can think to use for it. He got a third position behind the man who is not here this weekend, Alex Stocker. He bagged a pair of podiums at Oulton Park, a third in race 1, a second in race 2. The other man on the podium who was second in race 1 at Oulton Park was Jason Flegg. He also couldn't make it this weekend. That's why we have a bit of a depleted field here at Knockhill. But only for the next round of the championship we will get our contingent back without any hesitation at all. Here's Philip Waters making his way further forward as he comes into the John R. Weir chicane. Look, you have to carry so much curb on the way in because it spits you out for the next apex, and you just have to guide the car through it, through Butchers and up towards Scotsman's Corner, into the left-hander. And Philip Waters has a bit of a gap between himself now and Gavin Johnson. This is exactly what he needed and exactly what he's very, very happy about at the moment. They come off the turn once more and up the hill. Somebody's got some smoke coming off the car in front of them. I'm not entirely sure who that is, but I wonder if it's Darren Constant, who's had a bit of a tricky weekend to get the car right thus far. That's Carl Rossin in third position behind Gavin Johnson. You just saw a flicker of him and you might see it again. But Gavin Johnson, there he is, the on-paper championship leader for this season, because Gavin Johnson's committing to do every round for a start. And second of all, of course, he was battling with Ryan Lowry for the runner-up spot in last year's championship. And Gavin Johnson, with his teammate from last year, Pip Hammond, not returning, looks to be in the box seats to go and win the championship. Here comes Gary Lawrence diving up the inside of Nick Hull into the real radio hairpin. Gets it done on the way through. Can he shut the door on the exit? Well, Nick Hull is still there to his left. Good battling between these two. We have such a history of Gary Lawrence and Nick Hull. Oh, there's smoke coming off somebody. I didn't see who that was. I wasn't sure if that was Nick Hull or Gary Lawrence. I think it might have been Nick Hull who had a puff of smoke come off the car there. We'll have to double check as they come through. Initially it looked like it was Gary Lawrence's car that the puff of white smoke came from, but I wonder if it was Nick Hull's. But Lawrence is ahead. We're on board with Nick Hull, the number 4, as he pushes himself into the battle for third position once again. Gary Lawrence is there in it. Then we've got these two battling away further back. Now what's happened to Christian Young? I haven't seen where he's gone. Young was on the back of this queue, and now he has fallen away, so I wonder if he's got some mechanical difficulties. We're on board with Hull as he chases down Gary Lawrence again for third place into that first hairpin. Molyneux's trying to defend from Andrew Porter. Nick Hull sitting behind Lawrence. Molyneux defending from Porter behind them, and here comes Adam Southgate through the traffic. Laps Darren Constant. Here comes Coleman on the inside. Coleman under brakes. Oh dear! That was so close. But Darren Constant doing exactly what he should do, just trying himself to get out of harm's way. James Coleman threw it up the inside, and they very nearly took each other off the circuit there. And I think that little moment from James Coleman has effectively ruined any chances he might have had of overhauling Adam Southgate. Unless, of course, Southgate gets boxed in the traffic. He manages to go past Carl Rossin without too many issues. But James Coleman, look, is a long way back as a result of that. He's going to have to try and work hard to make up that deficit. It's going to be an interesting battle in 2018 because, of course, we had Ed Hayes pretty much dominating everything last year. This year, if James Coleman hadn't been knocked off at Oulton Park, I think he would have been right there with Adam Southgate like he is here. Oh, a bit of a twitch from Coleman out of the hairpin. That's going to cost him a couple of tenths of a second. He should be able to get back on the power relatively quickly. But Adam Southgate has a big gap now. He will not want to let that get any bigger to the 45 car out in front, as Southgate in the leading position of the Porsche Boxsters and overall laps the leading 924 of Philip Waters, the number 15. So they battle away on the road, but Waters ultimately giving him absolutely no problems at all, because the 924 definitely a lot slower than the Porsche Boxster. But it's great to see these two classes interweaving respectively with each other. That Porsche Boxster with its body kit and the spoiler that was introduced to the class last year really tightened up races in the midfield. We got a lot of great battles. James Coleman just making his way past Philip Waters in the 15. We're on board with the 924. One of the cars that I'm very proud to say I've had the privilege of driving, courtesy of the PDC racing team, who gave me a test drive in the 924 at Oulton Park at the beginning of last year. And I can tell you, those cars are really like dirty great go-karts to race around in. They've got so much grip, really, really good battles. There's not a lot of rubber on the road, so considering that, they are great fun cars to get a feel for. And I don't know a single driver who's ever raced one who has come away disappointed. Here's that battle for third place. Good run from Gary Lawrence. Nick Hull there in P4, number 4. trying to find a way to get past him, and Gary Lawrence is not making this easy for him. Third position is up for grabs, and Gary Lawrence wants it. He's running well there in P3. Nick Hull in 4th place. Kevin Molyneux still there in 5th. The number 5 ultimately is in P5 as they come off the curbs. Blue flag still waving because of course the Porsche Boxers are trying to knit their way through the 924s. But here is Nick Hull, championship battler, trying to work his way forward. Was not quite able to see the podium at Oulton Park, although he has done on several other occasions. Could well see the podium here this weekend. All he's got to do is close and pass Gary Lawrence. Now, Kevin Molyneux's dropped Andrew Porter and has gone with them in the traffic. So now it's a 3-way scrap for 3rd position as they lap Gavin Johnson. They'll have to lap Phil Waters next. But that's a puff of smoke from Nick Hull without any shadow of doubt this time. Now, I don't know if that's a terminal problem or if that's just a hiccup from the engine or something. Has he been on the Irish coffee or something? But Nick Hull, big puff of smoke through to Clark's and then back on the power once again up to the S's. But out in front of this battle for 3rd position, it is Gary Lawrence, the 93. Good to see him on the pace once again. Nick Hull and Kevin Molyneux, 4th and 5th. And behind these guys, we've got a battling trio, Andrew Porter. And then, of course, we have Nick Bartz and Christian Young. Although I think at the moment, Young is actually ahead of Bartz. Though, having said that, I've not seen Christian Young for a while. He just suddenly seemed to fall off the pace. I'm not entirely sure where the number 70 is. Here comes Molyneux. He's got a good run off of the Sayat curves. And now with a chance to move up into the real radio hairpin, into 4th position, past Nick Hull. He's there on the inside, snaking under braking. They almost touch, but that is a perfect move from Dolly Molly. He gets through and into 4th position. Good work from Kevin Molyneux. Now it's up to Nick Hull to retaliate. Down the straight, still that puff of smoke. Goodness me, not quite sure what they've put in that particular engine. I thought Castrol GTX cleared all ills, but clearly not. On this occasion, Nick Hull doing a great job trying to keep up with the man in 4th position there. But here is the battle for that 4th place. Great battle and a great support once again from the championship partners, with Jasmine still giving an awful lot to the championship. We're having a great season with them once again as they continue to give us a great season in the 2018 championship campaign. And there's a lot of great support for this championship. It is one of the most fun and exciting club championships in Great Britain. And a lot of the racers who have raced here have also raced in various other climbs up the national motorsport ladder. In fact, we even have a Le Mans competitor who has come out of this grid. Of course, you'll remember Rebecca Jackson back in 2012 and 2013 was racing in this championship in the 924 category. Then went on to the Boxster production class and has now since raced at Le Mans in the Road to Le Mans LMP3 Cup Challenge back in 2016. So you can start here and have an amazing racing career from it, or you can just stay and enjoy the racing as it is. And it is fantastic. It's always been great fun. I have to say, if I was given a budget to go circuit racing, I wouldn't be commentating on this. I'd be in the grid, probably spinning in front of this man, Nick Hull. Oh, and into the pits, that's Christian Young. I did wonder where he had gone. He's much quicker than this. And sadly, Christian Young, mechanical problems have kept him out of the hunt for 3rd position. That's a real shame because Young should be in this battle. But mechanical problems have kept him away from it. Here's Kevin Molyneux on the back of Gary Lawrence. Can he go for 3rd position? Lawrence sends into the right-hand side. Tries to squeeze him in the braking zone. That's perfectly fine in the defence. Molyneux trying to get the undercut. But they're lapping a back marker, so he's moved to cover very well there. There's Philip Waters leading the 924 battle still. And that's the car, of course, that took 2 victories last time out at Oulton Park. That is a very cool livery that car has got. And Philip Waters running very well in the lead of the battle. On board once again with Nick Hull, who has caught back up to Kevin Molyneux once again. Into the John R. Weir chicane. Plenty of curb through both apexes. Then into Butchers. Lots of curb on the way through. And then into Scotsman's. They're just lapping Kevin Ludford, still getting up to speed with his Boxster. Everybody's got to start somewhere. These guys were lapped in their first few races, don't forget, and now they are at the front end of the field, so keep going, Kevin. Everybody gets up to speed eventually. And I have to say, you're doing a much better job than I would do out there, so fair play. Andrew Porter in the background is not too far away from these guys if something happens, so he could still snatch a decent place at the bitter end. So we'll see how that goes. But we're getting to the closing stages of the race for the leaders. Adam Southgate in front of James Coleman. And to be fair, Coleman has definitely chipped away at that lead for Adam Southgate. But crucially, there is just a handful of laps left. and Adam Southgate looks as though he's got plenty of gap between himself and James Coleman. And after winning both races at Oulton Park, he basically wants to have a similar season to what Ed Hayes had last year, which is win a race, win another race, and then just keep on winning until somebody wrestles it from your cold, dead fingers. That was Ed Hayes' strategy last year, and now Adam Southgate looks to have adopted the same strategy this year. Here's the battle for third place again. Lawrence, Molyneux and Nick Hull. So Molyneux still pushing Gary Lawrence, trying to get him to make a mistake. The percentage is really trying to make sure you intimidate your opponent here, because it's so tight and so narrow. Overtaking opportunities are few and far between in these cars, particularly when you consider that under brakes these cars are really twitchy. So the car tends to drift when you're in the braking zone at full throttle, a couple of inches either way depending on which corner you're going through. So it makes the car just a little bit wider, and the drivers have to counteract that. Adam Southgate's got a bit of a gap over James Coleman. I'm thinking too much about my karters. There's a very talented kart racer, Josh Coleman. But James Coleman, 00. Dick Dastardly himself in this championship. If you look very closely on the chassis, he tends to have Muttley strapped to it. A fluffy version, obviously, on the roll cage. And then he come down the main straight. I'm getting chassis and roll cages confused. That's why I'm not a racing driver. Into the braking zone for the hairpin as James Coleman once again closes up on Adam Southgate, and absolutely fair play to him. He is chipping away, as we said, at Southgate's lead. It's not as big as it was. Southgate's just pushing as much as possible. He'll be one of the first to admit that this year he really needs to clean up his act, because last year he had some good victories taken away from him just by one or two little errors here or there. In fact, he was still in contention for the championship when he made a mistake at Rockingham, and that was all that Ed Hayes needed to sew the title up. But Adam Southgate has definitely made developmental progress in the winter. He's a much smoother driver, he's a much more precise competitor, he's more calculated, he's more rhythmic, and he's more metronomic, and that's what's going to get you win after win after win in 2018. He's doing a grand job, Adam Southgate, out in front. No major problems or difficulties at the moment. And I think we are about to go into the last lap of the race. Well, I think it's penultimate lap, actually. One more time around, and then we'll be on the last lap as Darren Constant, for the second time, gets out of the way. This time, James Coleman has no difficulties getting past him at the Real Radio hairpin. The gap is tighter than it was, but it's still too big to consider the victory, really, for James Coleman. But that third place finish at Oulton Park puts him back in contention for the title fight, and if he just continues to hassle Adam Southgate through the course of the season, I'm sure he's going to get him beaten. Now, that is Porter slowing. What is Porter slowing for? Has he got a mechanical problem? Because that's not just moving over to let the leaders go through. That's a mechanical gremlin, if ever I've seen one. So Andrew Porter, all sorts of technical problems with his car then, as James Coleman again closes up on Adam Southgate. Up the Sayat curves once again, and this time by, I think Adam Southgate is going to start the final lap. A really exciting battle for Southgate in the lead of the race in front of James Coleman as they come up and over the crest. We are on the last lap here, so Southgate will need to get past Carl Rossin fairly smartly, because James Coleman's closing up on him under braking. Boy, he's taken a lot of time out of him as James Coleman. If this race had 3 or 4 more laps, there is a definite chance Coleman could be the man on the top step. Kevin Molyneux's third. I didn't see where he got past Lawrence, but Molyneux's in P3, and now Nick Hull's going for the move on Gary Lawrence. Down the straight into the braking zone. Nick Hull's going to get him, surely. Yes, beautifully done. Gary Lawrence, I think, has got a mechanical problem, because Nick Hull has got well and truly away. Hull's dropped it on the exit. Oh, Nick! 4th position was guaranteed and nailed on. Oh, Nick, what a shame. Well, the finish of the race is going to be quite a tight one between Southgate and Coleman. Coleman's going to give it absolutely everything to the flag, but Nick Hull, sadly, is out of contention for 3rd place. It's going to be Southgate who wins it just in front of Coleman, but one more lap, and that race could have been very interesting indeed for the 00. It's a win for Southgate. Coleman 2nd. Great race, great battle at the front, and I'm hoping that that's the battle we get all season long between those two. 3rd place, Kevin Molyneux from Gary Lawrence and Nick Bartz. Porter is 6th in the end, a lap down from Kevin Ludford. And then Nick Hull and Christian Young are retirements, so Hull never got that car going again. Fastest laps for Southgate and for Philip Waters, who won the 924 race, ahead of Gavin Johnson from Carl Rossin and Darren Constant in 3rd and 4th. Great racing at Knockhill.
Adam, a really tough beginning of the race there, those first few laps with James behind you, right up until you got the back markers.
Yeah, absolutely. James did a fantastic race, and I was into that first corner. I was having to defend every single lap from him. Luckily, I think I just cut a slightly cleaner line through the back markers, and that built me a bit of a gap. But the pressure wasn't off. That was a flat-out race. Awesome, really fun.
James, we were putting quite a bit of pressure on Adam there at the start, but it seemed like traffic kind of got in the way.
Yeah, no, we were very similar on pace all weekend, so I knew it was going to be a tough race. I was on the outside of the track, so I knew turn one I needed to tuck behind Adam, stop anyone else coming up the inside. Give him a bit of pressure, but there's not many places to pass here, so 924s held us up a little bit, so Adam got away, then they held him up, and I caught him back up, so really good race, great circuit.